And so the reason this is on the agenda is because obviously this is very important to me. I'm a parent in the district and I see the things I've heard from numerous parents, numerous teachers. This is not something that isn't happening. It's clearly happening. And I appreciate all the feedback that we've gotten. I think the way that I envision this is, first we talk about, what are the things that we see that could change or the things that we want to see in practice, right? And then the second part of the conversation is, what are some of the things, because we do have a behavioral council, right? And I think it's really important, we're not experts in education. We have some here and we have some here, right? So the idea is a behavioral council really serves as that group that can help us navigate, but I still think that we have a lot of insight that we can share and things that, because we've heard from all of you and because we're parents too, we can hopefully add some, constructive things that would be helpful and that could be used as part of this toolbox that we're creating. So I want to open it up first to talk about the vision, right? So we understand what's required, what's allowed through Ed Code. We understand what's happening out in the community at the schools. So I think and I can start it off because obviously I put this on the agenda, so I'll at least kind of get the conversation started and then allow everybody to share their thoughts. One of the things that I've heard over and over again, and as a parent volunteer, I see this myself, I think there's a parent piece that's missing, right? So we really need to get parents engaged, and I think I heard it tonight and I've heard it before. We need parents to be engaged right away. And I'm not talking about we give Johnny, we're going to use the name Johnny today. We give Johnny 100 chances and then, we give him a consequence. I'm talking about when Johnny does something, we immediately call the parents and we say, something needs to happen. So that's number one. Something else is, we have these parent student guidebooks. We have them online. I've seen my guidebook for my school. I don't know that we utilize those right. There's an opportunity to actually have parents look at these guidebooks at the beginning of the school year to say, these are the things that are okay and these are the things that are not okay. And if something happens and your child is involved in something that shouldn't be happening, these are the consequences that are going to happen. We're going to call you right away. We're going to set up a conference with the teacher and the principal. We're going to do all these different things. But that way we're being transparent and open from day one. And I think it's something that even the teachers can support us with that, right? And the day that Johnny comes into class, there's an expectation set and we know exactly what is and isn't okay. What else? I think with our, because we are a big district, right? We have a lot of different schools. I think we need to have I'm hopeful with this behavioral council that once we come up with these different procedures, right, that we have an understanding of this toolbox, that it's clearly communicated so that all the teachers understand what they have. Because I keep hearing about, well, I feel like my hands are tied. I can't do anything. Let's untie those hands, right? Let's trust our teachers that they understand how to do things. And, we have PBIS, we have SEL, no issue with that. But let's not tie people's hands so that they can't do the other things that are going to help support the behavior issues. So those are just some initial thoughts for me, but I'm going to turn it over to the board to give them an opportunity to share their thoughts as well. And again, this is the vision discussion, right? So what are the things that we want to see? The second part will be more about, what are some of the consequences that we want to see as part of this? The other thing I want to mention before I turn it over to Mr. Watson is I think we need to be able to pivot, right? So I think that's important. We can't get stuck on this is how we're going to do it every single time. And I think somebody mentioned it tonight, somebody's mentioned it before. Every situation is different. So we need to treat every situation different, but still do something immediately, not wait for things to become an issue where people are throwing chairs. And me personally, if people are getting hurt, that's a whole different situation. And there should be a consequence that is appropriate for that behavior. So I'm gonna leave it there.
Again, I'm a little bit confused as to what sort of recommendations we're supposed to be making.
Yeah, I think the idea is that we all sit up here and yes, we are leading the organization, right? So we obviously have heard from parents, we've heard from teachers, there's an issue. And I appreciate, going through the list of the things that we're doing and all the accomplishments, but obviously there's something that we need to fix. I'm okay knowing that and doing something about it. And I think it's important to be proactive about things. I don't have to be in the class. Well, I take that back. I am in the classroom because I do volunteer at my students' school every other week. So I see things. I talk to teachers. I see the things that are happening. So I actually come from I think I have pretty good experience and exposure to be able to give like a very concrete, reasonable, thing that I think would work. I think it's important for, while we govern, that we should also have an opportunity to provide feedback, right? And I don't disagree with you. And I know we have all the experts here, and I appreciate the time that they're taking to put together this list of things. But I have ideas too, and I want to make sure that those are heard. Um, the other thing is, so we have that list, the protocol, that Dr. Hawkins went through. But I know for a fact that a lot of those things we're not doing right now, right? So I saw there's a couple things that the ed code, right? So there's a couple different things. There's a regulation that has a couple different things that you can do, right? So there's community service, I think was one of them. There's detention. We people mentioned it today. We don't do that. I've never ever heard, and maybe I'm missing something, but I've never heard of a student getting detention. Is that an option that we should consider? Why not? Right? Like I'm open to that. Like I'm open to looking at the things that we're not doing. And again, like I know suspension is like the big scary word that nobody wants to use, but you know what? There are things that actually should be treated with suspension. I can tell you this, if my kid was getting hurt, I would have a big problem and I would be out there yelling at somebody because that's not okay. And it doesn't teach our kids, it doesn't teach them, well, number one, it makes them feel unsafe, and I'm not okay with that. And number two, we're not addressing the problem, which means, guess what? When they go to the heart district, there's still going to be a problem. So we need to cap it when they're young and say, this is not okay. Like, and let's put all the resources, right? We have social workers, we have teachers, we have all these people we have all these resources. Let's provide those to the student, but let's not, because we want to say that we're perfect and we do everything. No, let's address it and let's actually get the parents involved, because to me, that's a big component of this. Parents need to be in part of the process. It's, what is it? What's the saying? It takes a village, right? The village includes the parents and they have to do their part, right? Because school is not a babysitting service. School is an education. It's a place where kids come to get educated. And I want to make sure that those kids feel safe. So I'm sorry, I'm taking up Miss Cooper's time.
Though, it's like, are we as a board, is it about setting the vision, right? And a parameter of like, this is what we should be doing, right?
Let me answer that question. Okay. So the reason we're doing this today is because my job, our job is to be responsive. Okay. So we've had several meetings, several parents have reached out. Our job is to be responsive. So if people are telling us that something is happening, then we have to be responsive to that. This is not to set of like a vision, but we're not changing the way that what we're doing is we're saying this is important and it's not okay for it to continue and we need to see a change. That's the reason that we're all here. And the reason that we're all talking about it is because as board members, we should care and we should be able to provide suggestions and thoughts. It's not just like, this is a collective effort, in my opinion. We all have ideas and suggestions. We've all sat through these things. We've heard things, right? So why wouldn't we be a part of that process?
I'm not saying that we're not. What I'm trying to say is that one of the things that I'm trying to say is I am not an educator. I am not legally, I don't know what I can and can't do. I would suspend, right? I would suspend if someone's throwing a chair.
So then let's say that. So
But
say,
can I do
hey,
that? Right? Can I do that? And what are the guidelines for me to be able to do that? I'm looking for discussion with them to know, can I do X or can I do Y? What can I do?
So I think the intent, right? And that's why we have a behavioral council. So the intent, or what I think will happen is a behavioral council is going to put together this list of items, list of ideas. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about those items. And that's part of the conversation, right? So you're right. We're not the education experts. Dr. Hawkins and the cabinet are. So they're going to tell us, hey, this is allowable, this isn't. But based on what I'm seeing, like pretty much all the things that we've talked about are all things we can do. We just haven't done them, right? And now that we're making it clear that we're not going to just pretend like nothing's happening. We're actually going to do something. It's going to be clear to everybody else that that's what we're okay with. Yes.
Can I answer this?
So let's move on to the second part of the topic, and let me just explain a little bit. So, again, we don't get a lot of opportunities to provide our feedback. And to me, it's very important for us to be able to provide insight. I don't disagree, and I'll say that 100 times. You guys are the experts, the teachers, the social workers, the behaviorists, you guys are all the experts. And I trust that you know what you're doing and that you're going to give us some really good options. But I don't want to, like you said, Mrs. Cooper, I don't want to take away from the fact that we're here for a reason. We were elected to govern and to provide direction. So, sometimes we hear a lot of negative, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. Well, then tell me what you do like. And tell me what you would suggest, right? So I don't shy away from that. If I don't like something, the number one thing I'm going to ask you for is a solution. So give me a solution. Don't just tell me the problem. Tell me how you would suggest to fix it. Doesn't matter if you're not a teacher. Doesn't matter if you're not in the classroom. How would you fix it? That's what I'm looking for.
I
okay?
wrote down all 10 of your things, Ingrid. I just want you to.
And so we're going to move on to topic B. The possible consequences to consider. So I think I was pretty clear. I think the parents need to be involved, and that's a big part of it. From day one, from the first occurrence, they need to be at the school. Something needs to happen immediately. Depending on what the situation is, if it requires a suspension, let's not be afraid of that. If it's something else, then let's make it more age appropriate, logical, right? Not everything is a huge suspension type of thing. Some things are literally, let's have a conversation with Johnny so he understands what the expectations are and what's okay and what isn't okay. And really what I'm looking for this behavioral council to create is a toolbox of things, right? So it's a bunch of different ideas and suggestions that are all different and unique. And again, with the understanding that maybe it's not going to be prescriptive and, for this situation, we handle it in this way, because every situation is different and we have to treat every situation differently. But I think that I want the message to be clear that we don't just stand around and not do anything. We will do something.
But I guess my follow-up is at what point though, right? Because today we're not actioning anything. We have the behavioral council Thursday, right? I'm just responding to what Dr. Hawkins said earlier. It's about, right? So when is it going to happen? Because I feel like, again, this is just another conversation, another
Right.
lecture. Like,
So
when are we going to action?
Okay, hold on.
Providing some direction. I mean, I
Exactly.
think-
So did we not do this right after the last meeting where everybody was upset? Did we not get this on the agenda right away? Right. Well, because we have meetings every 2 weeks, right?
That's
but we're
that's my
here, but
point,
we're
is
here.
It's the implementation of it.
Right.
So when is
And
it going to be
so the
implemented?
implementation is going to be really important, and it's going to be swift the same way, right? Because again, a lot of the things that we're going to probably hear about are things that are logical and that we could be doing now. So thank you for bringing that up, Mrs. Grease. So I'm hoping that we all agree that once we come up with this toolbox and once the behavioral council presents to us, that the idea is not to sit on things. I don't sit on things. I don't know if you guys notice that, but I don't. I make things happen. So the idea would be immediately, right? This is what we're going to do. And then the nice thing is starting next year, we're going to have some different things that we can do so that from day one, people understand what the expectations are.
So I think though that yes, we're going to hear from the behavioral council and we're not going to change everything tonight, but we can give some direction tonight. I mean, we can say this is the opinion of the board. Like we want to lean towards suspension when there's violence against another child. Like we could say that tonight as long as we all agree on it.
If a child is getting hurt or it's something violent, like I have no issue with suspension, things like that.
Is that something that I know
First
this goes to
First
the next
defense.
part.
Well, then I think we need to hear, I know that this is, student suspension is an item on our dashboard. And it's something that we measure for all of our students. And then it's something that we measure for all of our significant groups. So should we have a significant spike in suspensions, Dr. Hawkins, Mr. Clement, what are the repercussions as a district? So we get a yellow, an orange, or red on our dashboard. What does that mean? How does that impact the district?
We're we're going to move on to the consent calendar. I think I really appreciate everyone's feedback, and I know we talked about this for a long time. I think it was a topic that we needed to spend some time on. I know we're going to talk about it again in the near future, but I appreciate everyone's.
So do we have some?
Yeah, like, what's the
consensus and
action?
So the action
draft
is,
that we're
yes,
gonna-
so the action is the behavioral council is going to come back. They're going to put together the list of toolbox or the list of things, right, that we're going to consider. We're going to talk through those items. They're going to present for us, and then we're going to go from there.
And
And
then
then
so
tonight-
present at the next meeting, at the next.
Okay?